Counting on Grace, 2006, is a historical novel tailored for middle-grade readers, authored by Elizabeth Winthrop. Drawing inspiration from a renowned Lewis Hine photograph capturing a young girl toiling in a factory, the narrative of Counting on Grace follows the journey of 12-year-old Grace. In the early 20th century setting of Vermont, Grace finds herself laboring alongside her mother in a textile mill. Amid these circumstances, Grace and her friend Arthur confront harsh working conditions that serve as a catalyst for their endeavor to champion workers' rights and denounce the cruelty of subjecting children to grueling labor. Set in the year 1910 in Pownell, Vermont, the story orbits around Grace and Arthur, distinguished as the top students in their modest one-room schoolhouse. Their surroundings are colored by a stark reality: many children must forsake their education to toil on the industrial looms of the local textile mill. While the community largely accepts this as a norm, a requisite to secure sustenance for their families, their teacher, Miss Leslie, harbors a different perspective. She advocates for Grace and Arthur to remain in school and continue their learning. Arthur shares her resolve, fixated on breaking free from the mill at the earliest opportunity. Conversely, Grace willingly embraces her role, knowing that her mother ranks among the mill's standout workers, reliable, quick, and meticulous. Grace eagerly anticipates contributing her part. Economic struggles press upon the family, and the need for food is pressing. Assigned the task of doffing, Grace and Arthur labor in tandem with their mothers. Doffing entails removing bobbins and pins from the spinning frames of the looms. However, for Grace, a significant hurdle emerges. The task is tailored for right-handed individuals, while she happens to be left-handed. This incongruity leads to numerous errors on her part, each mistake resulting in deductions from her pay, diminishing the family's earnings, and marring her mother's reputation. On top of this anxiety, Grace grapples with the endurance required for long hours on her feet and the intense focus necessary for the exceptionally monotonous work. After her workday, Grace returns home utterly fatigued, her legs and feet swollen, and her hands adorned with cuts. Meanwhile, Arthur dedicates his time to his mother's loom and, on Sundays, he visits Miss Leslie to continue his studies. Simultaneously, he crafts a strategy to escape the mill's clutches and resume full-time schooling. Learning of Arthur's ongoing education, Grace joins their Sunday sessions. These precious off-days from the factory are invigorated by their lessons, offering a spark of energy despite their weariness. Miss Leslie decries the practice of subjecting underage children to factory labor, motivating Grace and Arthur to craft a clandestine letter to the Child Labor Board. In this letter, they reveal the presence of working children in the Pownell mill, beseeching authorities for assistance and awaiting a response with bated breath. The response materializes in the form of Lewis Hine, a photographer hailing from New York. Carrying his camera and equipment, he arrives in Pownell. While he informs the mill bosses that his purpose is to photograph the machines, this assertion is a facade. In truth, Mr. Hine has been dispatched by the Child Labor Board to capture images of the factory's child laborers. A connection forms between Grace and Mr. Hine, who requests her collaboration as a secret aide. Grace compiles a roster of names and ages for all the children working in the factory, providing Mr. Hine with concrete verification to accompany the faces in his photographs. Acknowledging the potential risks exposure could jeopardize her family's employment, Grace undertakes her role with utmost caution. She is well aware that the factory might face closure upon the Child Labor Board's exposure to Mr. Hine's images. Nevertheless, the potential reward outweighs the associated risks in her eyes. Mr. Hine concludes his documentation of the factory's conditions and departs for New York. Subsequently, a period of silence ensues. As time marches forward, both Grace and Arthur remain in the dark regarding any developments concerning the mill or its destiny. Arthur's mood descends into desolation and frustration, his yearning to escape the harshness of mill labor growing increasingly fervent. On a particular day, he takes a deliberate and drastic step by inserting his hand into one of the machines, resulting in severe injury that claims 2 of his fingers. While conscious of the extremity of his actions, Arthur is willing to resort to any means to break free from the mill's grasp. Regrettably, the mill remains unchanged in its practices, and there are no alterations to labor laws to intensify regulations on companies that employ underage laborers. Counting on Grace encompasses biographical details about Lewis Hine, along with a compilation of references. The book garnered numerous accolades, including recognition as an ALA Notable Children's Book, a Massachusetts Book Award for Children's Literature, and a nomination for the Dorothy Canfield Fisher Children's Book Award. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you did, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you.